Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
That'll intimidate people.
Hey. That was David DeAngelo, if you heard that. David DeAngelo joining us in lieu of my sister Susan, who is unable to be here today. So welcome to the program, the day after the final debate. It is October 23rd, and we are literally 2 weeks from this election.
Yes.
Thank God. We're almost there. We're almost there.
My wife, who is profoundly apolitical, is looking forward to the end of the political ads.
Oh,
so she can just ignore the commercials, ad hoc. She doesn't have to specifically ignore the political commercials.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know anybody who can take much more. Okay, so we had this debate last night, and no contest. I mean, it was sort of astonishing, actually, how Mitt Romney seemed to agree with everything the president said. I agree, and I agree, and I wouldn't do this, and I wouldn't do that. And he literally agreed with Obama's foreign policy.
Yeah, I think the headline at Talking Points Memo was "I'll be a better Obama." But it was funny because it was a striking contrast to the first one, where anything that Obama said, Romney just said, "No, it's not."
Right.
No,
right. Well, so these are calculations that are made by the campaigns. Clearly, a calculation was made. This was not Romney's strong suit, foreign policy. He also was tacking to the center, as they do. Disregard everything I said in the primary season. I will now do a 180-degree turn and agree with the president and be pacifistic and not want to commit our troops anywhere and not be bombastic in my speech. It's sort of it's so cynical to think that these campaigns actually think, okay, so this is what we said to win the primaries, and now we're going to say this to win the general. And the fact that those two things absolutely cancel each other out, two absolutely different approaches to whatever you name the topic. How can you get away with that?
I have no idea, but he does. He's got a whole news
and the
organization.
Media talk about it as if it's perfectly normal. He's recalibrating. He's blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because the primary, he's tacking. He's playing to the base, and then he has to broaden the message to appeal to, it's
not broadening it. He then destroys whatever message he had used to lure the base, who really never liked him, but finally just had to realize they had to deal with him. And once he had the nomination, then he could start, it's just, I don't know. If you can win doing that, it's pretty. It says something about the American voter. More than anything else.
And I would think that the voters are finally turning. Well, I would hope that they're finally going, oh yeah, there's an election coming up. I better start paying attention. Because how many people outside of the base actually pay attention during the primaries, unless it's that state's primary?
Right. No, most people don't. You're not normal in that way. I'm not normal in that way. We pay more attention, but the vast majority of people don't. Without a doubt, the greatest line to me was, of course, the bayonets and horses line, which I actually thought. I even thought the president piled on a little after he did the. You mentioned the Navy, that we have fewer ships than we did in 1916. Governor, we also have fewer horses and bayonets, and that's a bayonet right to the gut. But then he didn't stop, and then he said, we have these things called aircraft carriers, and planes land on them. And I actually thought, in terms of likability, he might lose points doing that. That it was almost.
It was a
little too ridiculing. It was clearly he could have stuck with the horses and bayonets, but then on to aircraft carriers. And, geez, Romney just sat there and took it.
And but it didn't look like. I mean, he looked uncomfortable. So it wasn't. It didn't strike me as kind of a political rope-a-dope. It just looked like he was uncomfortable. I mean, you watched him sweat. I mean, that was one of the ideas in the Twitter feed. I was following, I think, Talking Points Memo, and I think it was Talking Points Memo. One or two, they all mentioned how much he was sweating on his upper lip, and he just looked like he was in pain. And I got the impression that he was just playing for time. He was playing just to go. Okay, the polls are kind of easing towards in his direction. And
if he just doesn't screw up,
and he gets out of this, he might be able to eke out a win.
A win.
You know?
So the strategy then was, don't say anything.
Yeah, play defense.
just agree and look like you could be a commander-in-chief, and that's about it. That obviously was their strategy. And when he did try to, he did sound sometimes like he had memorized things. I mean, where he was, but it was brutal. I actually had, after a while, I was having a little trouble. I was enjoying it, then I was having a little trouble watching it. I thought Bob Schieffer did an okay job.
Yeah. There was one time where Bob Schieffer did something that I was expecting in one of the other debates, where Romney just wanted to keep talking, and he said, "Well, you had your chance. Let's move on to something else."
Yeah, he really did. And then Romney tried again, and he just cut him off. I mean, it was good. It was good. He had control. What was the other thing I wanted to say, though, about... Oh, here's something I noted. So I had said, I think, about the last debate, after seeing the vice presidential debate, I said, geez, I like that better, where they sit at a table with the moderator, because it's much more, I don't know, it's more personal. You're not going to get that fingers in your... I don't think you're going to do that. Right, exactly. You're going to be sitting and talking to people. And so, lo and behold, there they were at a table with the... and the whole tone changes. The tone changes. But I noticed this when the Post-Gazette published the picture today of the two of them at the table with Bob Schieffer. If you'll recall, the table for the vice presidential debate had to have been much smaller, because the vice president, Ryan and Biden, were much closer. Much closer together.
I didn't even notice that.
Go ahead, check it out. There's no way. Look at the distance between the two.
They couldn't hit each other.
I think so, because Ryan and Biden literally could very easily, and what's her name? They were just all of a little piece. So this is interesting. The vice president table is like the little kids' table.
Yeah, the wobbly card table at the end.
That's right. And here's the president's table.
The big boys' table.
And it's bigger. And you have to have a little more distance. But I found that fascinating. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. I have a pretty good memory for this kind of thing. And I was so taken by the closeness with which the vice presidential candidates had to sit at that table. So I was blown away by how far these two guys look apart, even though they're at the same table.
Yeah.
So that was just another observation. I don't know. Anything else? I thought I was taking notes for a while, but then it just was such a blowout that I stopped.
I think even it was either Chris Cillizza or the Talking Points Memo just at one point said, "This is just brutal."
Yeah, it is.
It was just brutal.
It got.
And the funny part was actually watching the spin afterwards. Whether it was on, I mean, I watched the debate on C-SPAN, and then went to CNN to watch some analysis. And the Republicans were, obviously Obama won on points, which I don't really understand what that means.
What does that mean?
Yeah, winning on points. What I mean, is someone counting?
Is that the way debate? Like if you're in a debate?
Yeah, you win or you lose.
I think maybe there are points that are scored for. I have not a clue. So it's you win on points or you win on style? Are those the two?
I guess. I don't know. It strikes me as a constructed thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched some debates from Oxford or Cambridge, where they actually count the number of people leaving through a particular door. And if you think person A won the debate, you leave through one door, and person B you leave through the other door, and someone counts. And so they get 600 yays and 400 nays.
Huh.
And so the
That's
600.
cool.
But they're a little more civilized on the other side of the pond, I guess.
Well, not. I don't know. Have you ever seen their parliament in action?
Oh, I love the parliament.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah,
I wish we had to do that. Yeah.
Yes, and my cousin is married to a guy who's from England. He described to me the electoral process, that when someone wins, they have 5 years, and then there's going to be an election at least 5 years from that point. And things may have changed since he told me about it, but if the prime minister does something really good, he or she can call for a new election and then get 5 more years from that point, which is how Margaret Thatcher stayed in power for, I guess, 11 years. And they do something really stupid and they lose a vote of no confidence, then someone else can call an election, and then it's 6 weeks later. And in districts, you vote for the party rather than vote for the person.
Right.
And I remember watching the Question Time, thinking, this is 30 years ago, thinking, wouldn't it be great if every week Ronald Reagan had to go to the House of Representatives and answer questions
Like that. Well, that's a difference between the parliamentary system and ours.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Dorothea writes, CNN conducted a quick poll after the debate of likely voters who watched the debate, and the poll results were 48% Obama and 40% Romney. Can't believe these people watched the same debate as I did. Right, but there was another debate. What was that, a CBS debate or something of undecided voters? It was 2-1 Obama won.
And I think the CNN folks were explaining, at least when I watched it, that it was somehow the numbers were skewed. I don't know if they had weighted the numbers in the opposite direction, because they were admitting that more Republicans were answering the questions.
Yeah.
So the 48 to 40% could just be a reflection of who they were asking. Although they could, I mean, there's mathematical ways of compensating for that.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who thought Romney won that debate is out of their mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just absurd.
Yes.
It's anyone who thought Obama won the first debate would be out of their mind.
Yeah.
There's some things that are just clear.
There was, I think it was 17% Democrats thought Obama won the first debate.
Well, see, those people are idiots. Well, they're blinded by their whatever.
I'm not disagreeing,
my kid is the best kid, and that's all there is to it.
My mom always said that about me, but she was absolutely right.
Yeah, right. Oh, uh-huh. And Dorothea writes, Romney reminded me of someone trying to fake their way through a job interview. Yeah, it was painful, I thought. Painful. And she says, Schieffer allowed Romney to ramble on about domestic issues. I am certain that Romney's debate coach told him to talk about what he knows and stay away from what he doesn't know. Well, that could well be. They both got into, it's funny, they both wanted to tack into domestic issues whenever they could. And that is true. Schieffer didn't pull him back from that, but
I'm still trying to figure out what the drinking game would have been. I think whenever Romney said the word tumult.
Oh, that's it.
If
tumult.
You took a shot at tequila whenever he said tumult,
you'd be gone.
Yeah, you'd have to go to a meeting today and say, "Hi, I'm David D, and I have a weakness for tequila."
Tumult. Tumult?
Tumult or tumult?
Tumult. I think he was pronouncing
That's
it
when
tumult.
You make a milkshake and you put scoops.
Tumult. It's a fine word. I like it when people use words that don't normally get bandied about. But clearly that was the word that was stuck in his head. And after a while he wanted to say, enough tumult. Couldn't we have some trouble? Trouble will do. Just forget the tumult. Yeah.
Agita, if you're, I don't know if Romney knows the word, but.
Well, he's no dumbbell.
That's true.
That's true. So, okay, so here's what I want to say. If Obama loses this election, it's totally on him, and it's on him for that first debate.
First debate, yeah.
And for letting Romney get in.
Yeah.
Because Romney, he was killing him up until the no-show at the first debate, and at least, I mean, I don't know. I will. It's Obama's
fault.
You can look at not mine.
You can look at the if you go to 538.com. There's a graph of the various ways they've mixed and not manipulated, but kind of added together all the poll numbers.
Yes.
And you see them, they're getting wider, which is, Obama was on top. He was getting better and better and better and better and better. And then you can see it. It just collapses.
Goes right down.
Past couple weeks, they've been kind of easing apart. But it certainly wasn't as pronounced as it was just before the first debate. And you go, okay, if he loses, it's
self-inflicted.
It's self-inflicted. It's whoever decided to give him the Xanax or whatever before the first.
Who knows? Who knows? Ansel writes, winning on points is a term used in boxing. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a boxing term. Sure. You can win a boxing match by a knockout, or you can win it on points. Right. Well, I knew that, but we thought maybe debate was something that did points.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a sports metaphor. Gee,
isn't that shocking? A sports metaphor in politics.
Yeah, he hit a home run and then won on points. Well, okay, scored a touchdown, then, You
said earlier, that Romney decided to play defense.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right. You did.
That's true. True. I find myself trying to not use any metaphors. Like when I blog, at the blog to Political Junkies, where I blog, I try not to use metaphors. And I found I was just using a metaphor.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I realized I hadn't properly introduced you as David DeAngelo, one of the two Political Junkies. And, okay. So anything else on the debate? You guys are... What, smug and quiet today? If he'd screwed up, there'd be such angst.
Yeah.
People would be calling.
Yeah, he did well. He didn't knock it out of the park. He didn't score he didn't get a strike. He didn't hit a bullseye. However many more.
Well, I thought it was a pretty. I don't know.
It was a very good show. Very good showing. There's another one. But it wasn't a
decisive.
It was a decisive win.
Decisive.
Yeah, no, it was a decisive.
Why are you equivocating?
No,
Jeez.
It doesn't end the.
We got to have an election.
Yeah, it doesn't end the election. It doesn't make the election a technicality.
No,
I'm a little less pessimistic than I was a couple days ago.
Yeah, but all this assumes that all the voters are sitting there watching this stuff, and that this has an impact. I don't know that it does.
Because there was a baseball game and a football game last night.
There was a baseball game and a football game.
So we'll see about the.
Hey, who won the football game? I know who won the baseball game. Anyone know? Bears or Detroit?
I have no idea. I was watching the debate, then I went to sleep.
I was too, but I sort of watched that. I watched that conference.
Yeah, Detroit, Chicago. That's
because the Packers are in there, and I'm.
Oh, okay.
From Green Bay. I can't help it. I always watch, or look, or care about what the ratings are. Anyway, okay. If Chicago won.
13-7.
13-7. Okay. All right. So, I think, is that it? We did the debate? Yeah. The debate is done?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of blogged on it this morning, but I more blogged on the coverage from the Trib. Which was kind of a generalized critique of the kind of he said coverage of objectivity in the media. It was Selena Zito and Mike, something that starts with a W. And they just basically stacked what Romney said and then what Obama said right after that as a retort without actually going into, well, which one was actually true. And it was the thing about the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force numbers, and I think about the apology tour. Because, Romney said there was an apology tour. Obama said there wasn't. Well, which one is true? And so it turns out, of course, that there was no apology tour. But they don't say that and kind of let Romney off the hook.
That's a shocker.
Yeah.
Actually, where I knew something, it was the first question that let you know that something odd was about to transpire, because the first question, if you recall, was Schieffer asked Romney about Libya. And it was a biggie. It was like he was giving him it was just lobbing him balls. Yeah. And was this a policy failure? Was this an intelligence failure? Was it what the heck happened? I mean, it was just hit this baby out of the park.
Give you a chance.
And Romney didn't touch it.
Yeah, he didn't take the bait.
Well, so that was very odd.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he was all over Libya in the second debate. It was very odd.
Well, I mean, there's some stuff that's come out in the news
yes.
about the timeline and about maybe the advice that he had gotten was if he says what he said before, then he's just going to get slaughtered on just on facts, on points.
On points. And there we return to the points.
Yes.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I have to take a quick break, and then we'll be back. And unless somebody decides otherwise, we'll move on to some other topics because, yes, indeedy, there's stuff going on.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Science Center, History Museum, Carnegie Museums, and the top Halloween attractions in Pittsburgh. This week, get discounts on the Scare House, Terror Town, and Pittsburgh Opera's Don Giovanni. Bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's e-commerce mall. Bergbargains.com.
In a world where the GOP presidential campaign was mind-numbingly long,
on next election day, you can say no to hope and change and choose a better way.
and the president revealed his true intentions.
If I taxied rich men, oh Solyndra, I could lend you all the cash.
Isn't it nice to know that you can laugh at all of them? Come see the Capitol Steps.
November 4th at the Byam Theater. Tickets on sale at trustarts.org and 412-456-6666.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
All right, Tim writes in and gives us a little more on the debate, which brings up some interesting observations, which I think probably David and I share. He says Schieffer did a good job if you think that the only foreign policy issues in existence relate to the Middle East. He spent 97.5%. Now, how did you arrive at that figure, Tim? He spent 97.5% of the debate on essentially one topic. China was briefly mentioned. Meanwhile, the European economy remains on shaky ground. Russia was brought up by Obama. Dealings with Latin America were never mentioned. Sub-Saharan Africa was never... Well, Mali got a mention. There was a shout-out about Mali. Sub-Saharan Africa was never mentioned, et cetera, et cetera. Well, you know, but this is true. And David said right before, I guess we came on, that in fact, one subject that has never come up at any of the debates, climate change. Not a
peep.
word.
Not a peep. I mean,
no environmental issues at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's
wow. It's dispiriting, disquieting.
Well, we all know it's a hoax, you know. It's because the editorial board of the Tribune Review says so. So I believe everything that they say.
Now, I understand. I mean, the EU should have definitely been brought up because the potential for incredible impact on our economic recovery is huge. However, the fact they spent so much time on the Middle East, I can sort of understand that because you look over there and all hell's breaking loose, and that's such a tinderbox area, and there's so much going on. I mean, let's say only Egypt was in tumult. Only Egypt was. That could have been a huge discussion, but it's not just Egypt. It's Syria. It's Libya. It's, Jordan's has some things going on all of a sudden, and now we got Lebanon getting definitely pulled into it. Turkey, Iran, forget Iraq, whoever, Afghanistan, my God, Pakistan.
Yeah, it's certainly volatile, lots of tumult. I wonder if people are still continuing the drinking game, if they're drinking right now.
Oh, we're putting them over the edge then.
10:30 in the morning, put down the tequila.
No one would have had tumult. You say tumult, I say tumult.
You say potato, I say potato.
Tumult, no one would have had that word because it hadn't entered into our political lexicon. But boy, if you did, man.
And I think Romney got a simple fact wrong. He was talking about, I think, Syria and I think either Iran or Iraq. I think it was Iran that they were allies now, and because Syria was Iran's trip to the sea. That was how Syria. You look at the map and go,
Iran doesn't need. What?
Yeah, it's the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
So it's like you go, okay, well maybe he just had a senior moment.
Well, I have to listen. You can't. That's no problem in geography is something that all Americans, almost all, fail miserably. So you could say that he could have said that Iran needed Botswana as a and most people wouldn't even blink.
Yeah,
right.
True.
Oh yeah, okay, because they have a common border. Okay, I am moving on.
Okay.
I am moving on.
Should I stay on this topic while you've moved on?
No.
Just,
You come with me.
I'll follow
forced.
on. Okay.
You're forced to come with me here.
Okay.
Not sure where to go. Let me look. Let me just look real fast. Okay, let's do this because I was blown away by this story. So, did you pay any attention to this? We're getting local, guys. Recall that the Allegheny County Health Department head forever has been a guy named Dr. Bruce Dixon. That when
Never seen him on TV.
Rich, you always saw him on TV.
Yeah. And it always struck me as he was.
He wore a bow tie.
Bow tie was kind of nerdy, kind of.
Bow tie, sort of a brush cut. It looked like, or bald, one or the other.
I think bald.
Bald brush cut.
Yeah.
At the same time. I don't know, whatever. And but he always seemed like he knew what he was doing, and I always felt like I was in good hands if Dr. Dixon was on the scene.
Yeah,
right?
if there was an issue with water safety or something, he's on TV and kind of talking like this, and you go, okay, well, if it's under 4 parts per billion and it's safe, then you go, okay, well then trust the guy. He
seemed like an odd duck, to say the least, but a competent odd duck. Anyway, so Rich Fitzgerald becomes the county executive, and he threw Dixon out so fast it was like, I mean, just gone. And now Dixon is suing for wrongful termination. Now, let's understand, first of all, Dixon is 73 years old, okay? I don't know if that factors in at all, but he had the job for over 20 years. I think sometimes when you have a job like that for that duration, you do get a little screwed up and you think it's yours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I own this Allegheny County Health Department. And he was really offended. So he sued, but it's what his attorney is claiming that I just laughed so hard I thought I was going to die. It says that his attorney is maintaining that Allegheny County Executive Rich Fitzgerald threatened the public health across Pennsylvania.
Across Pennsylvania?
It says right here, when he arranged the firing of Dr. Bruce Dixon. Even if it had said affected the impacted, threatened the public health of Pittsburgh or of Allegheny County, I would have laughed. I mean, there again, that's absurd.
Yeah, that's absurd.
I'm sorry. Dr. Dixon, sir.
There are people in Scranton who are their health is threatened because of this.
Just because you lost your job does not mean public health is threatened. I would imagine there's somebody in that position now that must know something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the details.
No, none of us. The public health is threatened around here for all kinds of. We got bad air. We're not so sure about the water, things like that. But you were in for 20 years. We had bad air. You weren't so sure about the water. And, you never came up with a way to tell us which restaurants had, mice droppings in the Western omelet. This is amazing that somebody would make that claim. Isn't that the funniest thing you ever saw?
Yeah, that's really funny. And there's a certain amount of hyperbole inherent in legalese. But
that's so...
Yeah. It's like the worst thing anyone could ever say about anyone ever. Because hyperbole is the way to go.
Because Mr. Fitzgerald was neither a physician nor trained in public health, his actions put residents at risk in Allegheny County and across the state. Because public health issues often cross county lines. So therefore, what happens in Iran can affect people in Botswana.
Oh, okay.
See?
Does Dixon have something to do with that too?
I mean, he may. He very well may. But
he's a very powerful man then, or the lack of Mr. Dixon, Dr.
I just want to say this to Dr. Dixon with all due respect, because I did, as I said, respect you when you had this position. Get a life.
Although I do like the bow tie.
We liked the whole act was great, and you were competent and good as far as we could tell. But obviously, after 20 years, you created some enemies, and maybe what I think something that might have happened that hastened your departure is that it sounds like there's a little ego problem, and sounds like that you thought that job was yours for life or something. Sorry, it's just the way it is. Don't you think? I hope I'm not being obnoxious, but.
Yeah, I'm
sorry, Doc.
As I said, I'm trying to remember the details of who Mr. Fitzgerald wanted in the job, because it was something like that. That it was he wanted someone else in the job, and just kind of. Well. Yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn.
Well, as they say, but an incoming county executive, does he not have the?
Yeah, he has a certain amount of
right to put.
Yeah.
Well, there's a board that oversees, but the board is appointed by the exec, and I guess he got the board. There's some question about how he twisted arms to get Dixon immediately voted out. But geez. Come on, Dixon, you're 73. Get a sailboat.
Yeah,
go away.
Enjoy the pension.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, wear a necktie instead of a bow tie.
Yeah, do something crazy, totally wild.
Get a tattoo.
And crazy. Okay. Excuse me.
I had to learn how to tie a bow tie.
I wouldn't have a clue.
For a couple concerts, and it was maybe last year. And of course, you go online.
Just get a
YouTube.
clip.
Those are kind of cheesy.
So
I'm not 9, so I got a bow tie, and the first time it took me about 40 minutes following a video on YouTube, and I was just growling all the way, because how difficult can it be? I know how to tie.
No, I think it is. It's hard to get it looking right.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things where once you know how to do it, it's 3 minutes later it's done, and then eventually, I know a guy, someone I went to high school with is in the health department down in New Orleans,
and he wears a bow tie.
He wears a bow tie every day.
What the hell is that with the health departments and bow ties?
Maybe it's something in the water. I don't know, but
or maybe it's they don't want their ties falling into like a petri dish or they're looking at a microscope and all of a sudden. Or it could be. It could be.
Carry a certain amount of dust.
Seriously.
And lint,
Okay. So.
Yeah. So I'm sure Ed can tie a bow tie as quickly as anyone else ties their shoes, but it took me a while, and it is very, because you're doing it under your neck, and if you're looking in the mirror, the image
backwardness
it's backwards,
of it.
And then
that would freak me out.
It was. I could have gotten a clip on, but I thought, I'm not 12. I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm 49. I can tie a bow tie. Damn it.
Even if it takes me 40 minutes. Yeah. Okay, so the other unbelievable story in the news today is a story out of Italy. Are you aware of what happened in Italy?
No, what happened in Italy?
Beyond belief. Okay, so in 2009, there was a nasty earthquake there, and in this little old village, everything came toppling down.
Yeah.
And there were over 300 people who were killed. Well, apparently in Italy, acts of God, are still not enough to. Well, you can still point the finger. So you can still say that somebody caused that earthquake, or is liable for the deaths. So Italy decided the people who were liable for the deaths were 7 scientists who all specialize in seismology, earthquake studies, and who had failed to alert the populace that the little teeny tremors that had been felt, prior to it, were a clear indication that you should get the hell out of Dodge, because everything was going to start tumbling down.
That's amazing.
Now, these 7 scientists, ladies and gentlemen, were convicted yesterday.
Convicted?
In an Italian court, and sentenced get this, to 6 years in prison.
Oh, Maron. I don't know
Do you believe it?
I don't know what that means in Italian. I hope I didn't offend anyone.
Well, it's people are scientists are freaking out all over the world. They are beyond, and I must say that the way the Italian justice system works, apparently it's not like they're being hauled off to jail right now. They give the term, then they start to appeal, and they appeal and appeal. But they were charged with not sufficient. They were derelict, and their dereliction caused 300-some people to die in an earthquake.
So, I mean, would that translate then to meteorology? And if someone dies of getting hit by a bolt of lightning, you can
well, it brings up an
charge
interesting.
Stephen Cropper.
No, I think there have been efforts actually in this country. If a tornado takes a lot of life, and for some reason the meteorologists didn't flag it or see it, there have been attempts to sue.
Really? Okay.
There have been attempts to sue, but they didn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
This 7 scientists, they say right here that they are prominent scientists or geological and disaster experts, and they've all been found guilty.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Was that
if we could warn about earthquakes, folks, there'd be no concerns, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to worry about the big one in California or anything like that. We can't predict.
Yeah, the science of earthquake prediction is really, it's all caught up in chaos theory and really nonlinear mathematics, and there's so many different causes and so many different things that you could look at it and go, okay, tomorrow at 6 o'clock there's going to be an earthquake and nothing happens, or there's no indication and the big one hits, and people in Denver surf to the Pacific.
That's right. There's what's interesting here is that scientists are taking it on the chin every which way. So scientists are believed to be idiots who don't know anything when it comes to climate change,
yeah.
Right? They're not to be believed. They're part of some cabal that is intent on, I'm not sure why they would be intent on scaring the bejesus out of all of us.
It's an international redistribution of wealth.
Oh, is that what they say?
That's what it is. Yeah, that's Heather Heidelbaugh said that to me once, that it was socialism, and it's an international conspiracy to redistribute the wealth, and because the scientists work for universities and governments, that they're paid off. So the only true, I'm kind of paraphrasing a lot of different sources here, and I'm not putting all of that into Heather's mouth. But she did say it was socialism, and then if just to try to get a handle on what the other side is saying about climate change, it's if you can prove it, then there'd be regulations, and the regulations would cut into the profits, and the profits would then go to countries that don't deserve them, and it's a redistribution.
All right,
sorry.
Blah, blah, blah. Hello, caller.
Hello, Lynn. You're talking about the earthquake in Italy?
I'm talking about the earthquake in Italy and the more astonishing earthquake of judicial earthquake of 7 scientists being found guilty of essentially murdering 300 people because they didn't predict the earthquake.
Yeah, they were charged with manslaughter, I believe.
Uh-huh.
What was astounding, a year or so ago, my wife and I visited Italy, and we had a chance to go to Herculaneum, which was the other city destroyed 2 hours after Pompeii. And
okay.
It's a fantastic place, but they said only about, I think it's less than half of the city has been uncovered because modern city has, the modern town has been built on top of it.
Yeah, sure.
And there's going to be another eruption. They predict, they said there's no doubt that there's going to be another eruption, and probably will be as bad. Only this time there's like millions of people, not thousands of people involved. And I said, wait a minute, scientists are saying that there's undoubtedly going to be, Vesuvius is going to blow again, and
people still live there.
Pardon me?
And people still choose to live there.
Oh yeah, within a mile.
Yeah. Well,
and
it's the
and we're-
bet. They're making the same bet that people in San Francisco and on the San Andreas Fault make, which is, I know it's coming, but it ain't going to come when I'm living.
Yeah, and when I heard that, I thought, I know that there's a chance that it might not be in 100 years, but there's a chance that it could be tomorrow.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live there.
And so, but I when I heard that about the scientists, I thought, oh, geez, what's next?
And it's unbelievable.
Asteroid.
It really is.
It's going to be an asteroid that's going to hit,
and somebody's got to pay.
Got to blame it on somebody.
Somebody's got to be at fault here.
And you can't blame God.
No. So the scientists are either idiots who are in cahoots with socialists, or they're capable of stopping Mother Nature in her tracks, or predicting when these kinds of far unpredictable events will occur.
Or they just have bad lawyers in
maybe
in Italy.
They do. Maybe they have bad lawyers.
Yeah.
They probably were all American climatologists who decided to leave the country and switch their science.
All right. Well,
thank you. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's the U.S. Geological Survey. The scientists are freaking. They're freaking all over the place about this one. It's a doozy.
Yeah, that's amazing. I do remember seeing video. I don't know whether it was this earthquake or another one in Italy where St. Francis of Assisi had preached. It was his chapel, or chapel closely allied to him, and the frescoes just became dust. Because a fresco is the paint applied to plaster, and then the plaster dries, and that's how the color is. And so the building started shaking, and all of the colors just became a cloud of dust, and you just see this, and you go, oh man, that's just really very sad.
Wow, yeah. Hey, we gotta take another break, I believe.
Okay.
And when we return, we will have another outrageous topic that will blow your mind.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a pep talk that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You can improve your future. Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and for free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Pittsburgh City Paper's Best of Pittsburgh 2012 is available now. Over 100 pages of the best restaurants, clubs, bands, bars, and everything else that makes the Burgh the city of champions. Pittsburgh City Paper Best of Pittsburgh 2012, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania, and on the web at pghcitypaper.com, and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen live at pghcitypaper.com.
Okay, we're back. Lynn Cullen, David DeAngelo.
Hi.
Of Two Political Junkies. Hi. There was this other story yesterday that blew me away. So the Boy Scouts list, the perv file, comes out. And this is a file they've kept for gazillion years of all of their scout leaders who were alleged, or who in fact they knew, were molesting scouts. And, like the Catholic Church, they just sort of kept it to themselves.
Yeah.
And, but meticulously kept this file. I don't quite get. And so because of a lawsuit, it was judged that this file had to be made public, and it is out. And wow, there was a shocking one of the names on the list.
Was someone local?
Was a professor at the University of Pittsburgh. And he, a prominent University of Pittsburgh social work professor, Roger Beatty, or Beatty, I don't know him.
Yeah.
You think? And he's there on the perversion file list, and the kids he molested are named, and one of them has spoken out, saying that 2 of the kids he molested are now dead. He said all of our lives were horribly affected, and he supposedly molested 5 boys repeatedly while he was a scoutmaster. Now, here's what's interesting about the professor. He's in the ICU at, I don't know, Presby or something, at UPMC, because he had a stroke.
Ooh.
A massive stroke suffered on September 28th. Now, he knew his name was going to come out.
Oh, he did?
Sure he did. He knew he was on the list.
Oh, okay.
He had to know he was on the list. He know the list is coming out. He knew on September 28th this list is coming out. The stress of it must have blown... And you know what? He's lucky. He is out of it. He doesn't know what's going on. He can't speak.
Wow.
And that's it. The only person able to answer these allegations is unable to answer. He's 66 years old, and he's, I don't know if he's comatose, but he's...
I think Bruce Dixon not being in the job. That's one of the things, because something in the water must have triggered the. No, I don't want to joke.
No,
about,
you can't joke about this. But
joke about someone having a stroke.
The reality is, I mean, I would bet that is why.
Yeah.
It's almost it was a self-protective stroke. I mean, it's one of those things you don't want to be around.
Yeah.
And he's not around in a way to deal with the total destruction of his reputation, his whatever. So
yeah,
there you have it.
It's a sad story all the way around. I mean, whether it's the Catholic Church or whether it's the Boy Scouts, I mean, whenever young men are let's face it, raped and tortured, there's no defense.
Okay, Colette says, never mind. This is David DeAngelo. She just tuned in, wasn't sure who's talking. She says, that's not Potter.
No. Although we kind of look alike, but no. Almost.
I don't think. Oh, this is interesting. This is out of the Wall Street Journal today. Speaking of, I'm saying this guy probably had a stroke because the stress blew his, You can literally be scared to death.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So it's sort of like what happened to him.
Yeah.
Freaked out to death, and his nervous system could not handle or whatever. Blah. He blew a gasket. So, they say that doctors regularly see people who were perfectly healthy an hour earlier in acute, sudden heart failure brought on by
fear.
Fear.
Oh, okay.
And there's this neurologist at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston who he's collected all of the information about this, and he says that there are lots of cases of people who've died suddenly. For instance, mugging victims or people who were in a house that was being broken into who were never touched.
Oh, they just
dropped dead of fear. Here's something that'll freak you out. Children on an amusement ride have died.
Really? How many?
On the ride. It says children. That's more than one.
Yeah.
Children who died on amusement park rides are part of it. That literally died of fright.
Wow.
Okay. Car accident victims who sustained only minor injuries. Like, they get in an accident, nothing really happened. They scratch their hand, they've dropped dead. And there was one guy, this is what who had jumped off a roof of a hospital, obviously trying to commit suicide, and the autopsy showed that they died of fright before they hit the ground.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? had a massive heart attack, jump
on the way down,
have a massive heart attack, and so they never felt the impact. That's something.
Well, I mean, depending on how far they're falling, they might not feel the impact anyway.
Well, that's true too.
You know, because I remember reading just after 9/11, there was a guy who was a neurologist wrote a letter into the Times about, he calculated how fast, you know, the very sad story of the people jumping off of the World Trade Center in order to escape the heat. By the time they hit the ground, they'd be traveling about 130 miles an hour, but nerves only travel about 110 miles an hour. So you would die.
You wouldn't feel the pain.
Yeah, he said if there's any consolation,
they didn't feel pain.
They couldn't have felt anything because their brain
terror.
would be they wouldn't feel any pain because the death would be caused quicker than the nerve endings could communicate the force to the brain.
Well, it could be in some of those cases too that they also died of massive heart attacks as well, because they say studies have documented an increase in sudden death in the vicinity of remember those Scud missile attacks from Iraq on Tel Aviv in 1991? So even though they weren't hit by these, but they were people in their apartments, people were dropping dead.
Wow.
Out of fear. Also, the earthquake in Northridge, California, there were a number of these kinds of
just people
sudden, deaths based on absolute fear. Also, 911 in D.C. and New York City, they feel that there were a number of. I mean, I'm sure they've been. And they say the unifying factor in all of these is that the nervous system controls the heart. And if the nervous system
goes crazy,
goes on total overload, total freak out, so can the heart.
Wow. I mean, you'd think that after however many generations of evolution, human beings would have evolved into some sort of safety feature. Because, I mean, considering, the human beings were wandering across Africa 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 years ago, there's probably a lot of time where you'd be just scared, whatever, and those folks who would pass away at that point would stop whatever kind of genetic background for the next generation.
I remember as a kid, and I think I've told this story, I was terrified because the whole family was getting together to have a surprise party for one of my uncles who was, I don't know, I thought he was 120. He was an old man, and he was a little frail at the time. And I thought, you mean Uncle Joe's going to walk in the front door and we're all going to jump up and say, surprise! And I said, what? I mean, have you thought that he could possibly, just drop dead? And they hadn't thought that. And in fact, he didn't.
Oh, that's good.
No, I'm not going to tell you that he did. No, he didn't. But I really think that is a possibility.
Yeah.
For an old person.
That and I mean, what a horrible way for someone who comes up with the idea for the story. Oh, let's do this for Uncle Joe. Yeah.
Hey, let's kill Uncle Joe.
Yeah, let's
I'll kill him with kindness.
Throw the Yule-log on Uncle John.
But I really have, thought of that. That I think people should think twice. Boo! Before they scare somebody.
Yeah. I remember some of the strangest television clips I've ever seen are out of Japan. And I remember years ago, maybe a couple decades ago, there was a show of this reality kind of candid camera type show. Camera would be off the picture, and a guy would just be walking down the street. He looked like just a businessman. He would walk up to someone, and just scream in their face, and then just keep walking. And so the entertainment was the reaction of the person who just gotten scared.
That's awful.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I have to admit, I don't really like going on roller coaster rides, and now I have more evidence.
Yeah. See, I won't go on a roller coaster ride either. A person who's walking around with a 50% narrowing of their arteries may never have any symptoms, but if they're held up at gunpoint or narrowly miss an auto accident, their adrenaline levels can rise and destabilize that plaque, and the ruptured plaque can cause a blood clot, and kaplooey, bang.
That'll do it, yeah.
Okay, so that's how it can happen. And they say they really don't have numbers on this because many victims who drop dead suddenly, they don't have autopsies. And also, you don't know what stresses they were under.
Yeah.
Like, I'm convinced, without knowing anything, that this Pitt professor had one of these situations.
It could also have just been a coincidence.
Yeah.
I mean, there are 66-year-old men who do have strokes that don't have anything to do with them being in a Boy Scouts or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, it could have been a coincidence. It's a much more interesting story if his nervous system just kind of kicked him in the tail.
Okay. It's fascinating stuff, though. Yeah, here's a birthday party, surprise party! I hadn't read all. Here it is. The stresses aren't always tragic.
Those
Excitement.
poor people.
I know. Excitement over sporting events can kill you. One patient at Johns Hopkins suffered stress cardiomyopathy when a friend surprised her with a birthday party. There you have it.
If my wife is listening, please don't have
Give him a
surprise party.
Jeez. So be careful, guys.
Unbelievable. I mean, every time you learn something new about the human body, it's pretty amazing.
So I just want to note this story. Today's Wall Street Journal, in the B section, which is titled Marketplace, there is a story called Chasing a Dream to Oz. And it is a story of a Pittsburgher, a 31-year-old boilermaker from Pittsburgh who has a job in Australia in the desert where he went after this job big time, this guy. It's a fascinating story of how he figured out how to make a lot of money with the skill he has, boiler making. And it required going to Australia, fine and dandy. It requires working, get this, 3 weeks in 7-day weeks, 3 weeks, 12-hour shifts, 1 week off. Can you imagine doing that? Would you do that? 3 weeks straight, not a break, 12-hour shifts.
So 21 straight days.
21 straight days of 12-hour days. Jeez. Then you get a week off. However, he is going to be making well over $100,000.
Oh.
And he has no rent to pay. He gets total room and board. He's in the middle of some horrific desert, but he can just literally pocket most of that money. And that's what he's doing. And he says that he's keeping the money, and he hopes that people back here in Pittsburgh are proud of him. But it's a fascinating story of how he went at this guy. Charles Stella has struck blue-collar gold, a mining industry job in Western Australia, boilermaker from Pittsburgh, 31 years old.
Oh, good for him.
No, it really is. It's a story about initiative. He did what he had to do. He actually invested some money in trying to get the job because it's not easy to do it.
Yeah.
To get the job. He went down to Houston for an interview. He did the blah, blah, blah. But here's somebody with good old American initiative.
Yeah.
Now, he was getting jobs as a boilermaker here, but it was on again, off again.
Yeah.
He said it was feast and famine. It was, you got to go here, then you got to go there.
How long is he in Australia? I mean,
well, he was hired for a year shift. He's in the middle of it. Whether he's able to re-up, I don't know, and I don't know what their visa regulations are. But he had to go through all that. He's encountered some people in Australia who are angry that he's taking a job.
He's a legal immigrant.
Yeah, he's a legal immigrant, but he's taking a really well-paying job. But it's fascinating, his story. he wanted to be an artist. He's his off time he spends sketching and.
Oh wow.
Yeah, interesting man.
Yeah.
31-year-old guy. He's African American. Don't you think?
I'm not sure. I just think when you said Stella, I'm thinking, okay,
Stella! But I just thought that was interesting. And if you get the Wall Street Journal or you don't, go online and read this story. It shows that, some people say, oh, I can't get a job. And some people say, he wants to open a restaurant eventually. He's got dreams.
Oh, okay. Will he be serving Boilermakers?
Well,
you did the Stella joke. I get to do the little shot in the beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. I want to say rest in peace, Russel Means, the Native American activist who also became a actor. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Did you ever see Daniel Day-Lewis in Last of the Mohicans?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, you should. It's a pretty good movie, and Russel Means plays the Indian guy.
Oh, okay.
Among many Indian guys, since there's a number of Mohicans in the movie. But Russel Means, this is a blast from the past. You guys are all too young to remember the American Indian movement, to remember the Wounded Knee.
I remember when they took over the City Hall in D.C.
Okay.
It had to be mid-'70s.
You know what they did that was just fascinating? I think this is when they first sort of put themselves on the map. He was part of it, a bunch of Indians, Native Americans, on a Thanksgiving Day, stormed and took a replica of the Mayflower that was, in the harbor in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Oh, really?
Isn't that wonderful? He directed, in 1970, a band of Indian protesters who seized the Mayflower replica at Plymouth, Mass. on Thanksgiving Day. The confrontation between Indians and costume pilgrims.
That would have been a YouTube moment.
Attracted network television and made Mr. Means an overnight hero to Indians and sympathetic whites. Yeah. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Well, he had a real flair for knowing how to draw attention to things. So, okay. Hey, David, thank you.
Thank you. Can I plug? John Delano and I will be doing a talk at PodCamp this week. It's on Saturday, having a brief 1 hour long discussion of the interaction between old media, which is what he does, and new media, which is kind of what I do. And it's at, if you go to PodCamp Pittsburgh 2012, you can find a way to get there. It's at Point Park College.
Okay.
It should be a lot of fun. And I think Tony Norman's doing a thing with Chris Potter and Sue Kerr an hour before me there as well.
Lynn, just wondering, Chuck writes, a Romney win could potentially scare quite a few people to death. Don't you think? Yeah, I do. And Dana wants to know, when I joined your online show today, there were 85 people tuned in. That's more than I've seen in a long time. Believe me, they didn't tune in to listen to you talk about nonsense like people being scared to death. What a waste of airtime. Jeez.
It's not. If it's webcast, is that actually airtime?
No, see, 85. When we are live, no, that's not.
The numbers aren't right.
The numbers are not right. 80, no, because there's a number of ways to access the program. However, the cumulative, most people do not listen live.
Oh, okay.
They listen at 11, at 12, at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
They download the podcast.
They listen. There's a lot of people who are a week behind. I don't know how they can stand that because we're, more timely. Whatever. But Dana, I'm sorry. I don't think it's a waste of airtime to have some fun, to talk about. If you want me to talk nothing but politics, then goodbye, because I can't take it. There's more to life.
Can I also say we hit 2 million hits at Two Political Junkies, I think last week. Yeah. Took us 8 years.
Well, that's fantastic.
But what got us over the top was the binders full of women. That Maria did some artwork or posted something, binders full of women, and
that did it for
people
you.
just searched. We had 3,000 hits that day.
All right.
So congratulations, Maria. We got 2 million hits.
Okay. And, hey, Dana, really, come on. Yeah, get a... You don't like us talking about Bruce Dixon's necktie. You don't want us to talk... it's all your fault.
Yeah, it's my fault.
Okay.
Just
Goodbye.
blame me.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Potter tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.